No, no. A lot of the common people in Iron Out the Rough Spots didn't. They were having trouble getting them off the shelves, basically. Um, so, as you can imagine, CBS were getting a bit nervous, but Paul Young just he soldiered on with it. Um, yeah, and then of course in '83 we got we got it right this time because we had both Come Back and Stay and Wherever I Lay My Hat. And obviously these were instant hits, Wherever I Lay My Hat being the number one and Come Back and Stay being, I think that got number four over here. But that was a massive hit in Germany, wasn't it? I mean, it got number one and it stayed there for 6 weeks. Yeah, Come Back and Stay was huge in Germany. And then, of course, the album No Parley, of which these singles were a part, went to number one over here. And then it was coming up Christmas time. And I remember reading this, it was coming up Christmas time, and, the record label were thinking of a Christmas single for Paul Young to release from the album. And they were thinking about releasing his version of Love Will Tear Us Apart. And Paul Young said, no, I'd like to keep that one as part of, as an album track, as a selling point for the album. And so Paul Young came up with the idea of, why don't we re-release Love of the Common People? Because he gave it a long hard think, and he realised, well, it's got kind of a Christmas sound to it. In the song, and if you guys know the song, you know where he's coming from, and so they went ahead with that. And this time round, Love of the Common People flew off the shelves. It got to number two in the charts, and my God, one extreme to the other. So he had a false start, yeah, two false starts, but hey, he got there eventually, and thank God he did, and because he deserved to get there, So they're the singles from No Parley, Hang Out the Rough Spots, Love the Common People, Wherever I Lay My Hat, and Come Back and Stay. But I'm gonna touch on this right now because I was debating whether to leave it for later on, but I think with a lot of people, they don't realise that Paul Young recorded as much material as he did. I mean, yeah, they know the singles, but a lot of his best stuff, you could say, is the album stuff. The album tracks. There's so many gems on his albums. I mean, if we take No Parley, the title track itself, No Parley, the title track, that's one of the highlights of the album, in my opinion. It's really, really, really good. And also, there's so many others like Tender Trap, Cuckoo Karama. I know there's a lot of love for that one, Cuckoo Karama, and obviously, women, everyone's favourite subject. Yeah, that's a great track. Especially the live version of that one. That 9-minute epic version of that track, Women. That was such a good track. And of course, you've got to mention Behind Your Smile, because again, Paul Young, of course, was predominantly a cover artist. He was. But that's not a bad thing, because he did a great job of taking other people's material and just running with it and doing it, It's like, he did despite it being a cover, his versions are often the definitive versions. But at the same time, he did write a lot of his own stuff, particularly in his later years. But Behind Your Smile is an early example of stuff he wrote, himself, with obviously his keyboard player Ian Cooley, or as he dubbed, his other half. Yeah. But again, Behind Your Smile, another example of where the live version is much better. And of course, there was the 5-track record that he released, the live edition, which contained those two tracks, the live version of Women, the live version of Behind Your Smile. And of course, those two tracks are now available as part of the Remixes and Rarities album, which was released at the in I think it was the middle of last year, like June time, because it got pushed back, didn't it? Um, but yeah, again, two tracks that, yeah, the studio version is really good, but the live versions of those two are so much better. And I think the live version of No Parlay, the title track, is so much better as well. I mean, I'm one of those guys. I do like, as much as I like the studio stuff, when it comes to Paul Young, I do love his live stuff as well. That is something I really wish to do, release some of his concerts from back in the day out on DVD and Blu-ray now. Like, there's that one, there's some footage from it on YouTube. The Birmingham concert in '85, which has been released on VHS, but of course it's never been given a release on Blu-ray or DVD. But again, that was such an outstanding concert. It would be nice to get that, and also Rock Blast as well. It'd be nice to get that one on Blu-ray and DVD. Yeah, but it's such a missed opportunity that they haven't done that. Because again, Paul Young, he's awesome live. From the footage you see, he's awesome. Doing those I dub him the master of the microphone stand, because he really is. Some of the twirls he does with that thing, and he just, the point where he just chucks it, flat out chucks it up in the air and catches the damn thing. But yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to see some of his live material be released to Blu-ray and DVD, and I think there is something of a demand for it, so it is something amazing. And even a live album as well, because of course we got the 5-track record, but it'd be nice to have a full album of live material from, back in the day. So that is as that's No Parlay, and of course. When you talk about Paul Young, you have got to talk about this one, because, like I say, it really is the one that started it all. This was huge, and rightfully so, because it is such a well done album. You know, but obviously he didn't stop there. So this was '83. Now, '84, he was out for most of it, because, as you guys know, Paul Young is someone who, even at his peak, he always suffered from voice problems, and again, I think it was genuinely a case of just overdoing it. He did, like I say, he was doing so much stuff in '82 and '83, but in '84 his vocal cords just gave up on him, and so he had to take about a year out. For most of '84 he was inactive, and it'd be fair to say this is something that harmed Paul Young, because a year in the music business is a long time. And of course, styles are moving on, new stars are coming, and so it's something that did harm him, I think it'd be fair to say. But fortunately, he managed to recover enough, of course, to do his bit on the Band-Aid single in December of '84, and thank God he did, because obviously that was a big career move from him, and he always mentions it in interviews, doesn't it? It played a major part in introducing him to US audiences, and of course that opened up for him to play a part in the Live Aid concert in '85. But obviously there's that story, isn't there, that Paul Young originally was going to be involved doing his, because he has quite a bit to do in the Band-Aid single, because he has the bit in the middle of the song, and then obviously they're all together at the end. But yeah, he has his bit in the middle. But of course he, as you know, sings the opening verse. And obviously he's told that story a number of times where it was originally going to be David Bowie singing the opening verse, but I think he was unavailable at the time, and so they give it to Paul Young. So again, even it just it emphasised the fact that it was a big career move, because of this ensemble piece, this ensemble record, he's the guy leading it, and I mean, David Bowie, even for someone who's not a big fan of, he is good. You can't deny that. But thank God he was unavailable, because Paul Young, he makes it, So yeah, that was 84, and then 85, of course, he'd recovered enough for his next album, which was, of course, The Secret of Association. This one, The Secret of Association, because as well as this box set, I have these albums individually. This one was the first Paul Young album I bought. Because of course I was looking for the album with Every Time You Go Away on it, and that song is, of course, the main one on this album. And so yeah, this was the first Paul Young album I bought, and instantly I loved it. I've been quite fortunate in the respect that I have liked most of Paul Young's material. I mean, another artist I very much like is George Michael, but as much as I like him, some of his stuff is hit and miss for me. Like when he does one and I like it, I really like it. But then there are those which completely fall flat for me. But Paul Young, for me, has been a lot more consistent. As I say, the main track from this one is undoubtedly Every Time You Go Away. And of course there are the other singles, Everything Must Change, again one he wrote himself, and another fine example of what a great songwriter he is in his own right. And of course Tomb of Memories, again one of his own, and one of my personal favourites as well, I'm Gonna Tear Your Playhouse Down. I absolutely love that song. When I first heard it, I'm going to say Playhouse Down, it was again one that jumped out at me. I couldn't get over how awesome it is, and I do think that is his most awesome song. It's certainly his most energetic one, I think. Yeah, I love that one. But again, as is the case with a lot of Paul Young albums, a lot of the gems are in. I mean, those 4 singles are great. You can't deny that. And of course, Every Time You Go Away was Paul Young's #1 in America. So again, this was his biggest album in America. So again, a really significant album for him. But yeah, as great as the singles are, and they are great, a lot of the gems come from the album tracks. And of course, that first track, Bite the Hand That Feeds, the first time I heard that one, because again, great introductory track for the album, I thought, this one's great, this is amazing. And that one as well, Standing on the Edge of Love, that's a really good one. That really is. And also, that one, I have a great love for this one, and of course it was a B-side as well as an album track, This Means Anything. And again, one that Paul wrote himself. I really like that one. But yeah, again, 2 very solid albums. Again, Secret of Association, another #1 album for Paul Young, and again, another platinum, because both of these albums were certified platinum, so he's racking it up. And you know, this really proved that he's not just a one-hit wonder. You know, he's here to stay. You know, like, it's just, honestly, I didn't know when I bought this first album that I was going to become such a Paul Young fan, because obviously, even though I bought the full album of Secret Association, I was buying it for that particular track every time we go away. But I realised that is just one of a number of great material that Paul Young's released over the years. And like I said, you know, I'm so glad that I didn't just stop with that album, because that would have been such, you know, I would have been missed out on so much. So we had Secret of Association, another major success. And then Paul Young did a great job of not wasting any time, because obviously we had 85, you know, a big year for him, arguably his biggest year, because obviously he had Secret Association and also the Live Aid performance, which obviously was, you don't need me to tell you how brilliant that was. And then obviously 86 rolled around, and we had an album for that year too, Between Two Fires. Now, I think, objectively speaking, this could be his most interesting album. And of course, the back there. Do you know, I really love the fact that they used the sleeves from the records for these. Now, Between Two Fires, as I say, that followed rather rapidly from Secret Association. Now this did well over here, because it wasn't at number 1 like the previous year, but number 4, so firmly in the top 5, and again certified platinum. And again we have some wonderful material from this. This one. When I first bought this, you know, I did like it. But it is one that's grown on me over time. And maybe you guys that are fans of this particular album as well, maybe that's no surprise to you. But there is a lot of genuinely great material on this. Obviously, the 3 singles from this one, Some People, Wonderland and Why Does a Man Have to Be Strong, are brilliant. I love the New York mix of Some People, and of course, I think Why Does a Man Have to Be Strong is one of my favourite Paul Young songs, genuinely, because it's such a lovely song. But again, a lot of gems on this one when you look at the album tracks. But I should say as well, this was a significant album for Paul Young, because this contained a lot of his own stuff. You know, he had some of his own stuff on the previous 2 albums, of course, but this one was made up majority of his own material rather than covers. So a bit, again, something. He was always someone who liked to try different stuff, Paul Young. You know, a very brave move as well. You know, because it wasn't always going to be a sure thing, and you know, CBS were pretty nervous about it. But yeah, some of the gems on this, I mean, that one, War Games, I love that track. I think Drew Barfield wrote that one. In the Long Run, that was Paul's own, another great one. And that one as well, Prisoner of Conscience. Those tracks, War Games, In the Long Run and Prisoner of Conscience, are so much fun. They really, really are. But yeah, they're highlights for me on this. And of course, Why Does a Man Have to Be Strong? And again, the New York mix of Some People. But I think maybe if you were to speak objectively, the shining star of this album is probably the Wonderland song, because that genuinely is a lovely song, and you know, it really is the shining star of the album. You know, I mean, I like it. I genuinely do, but it isn't my favourite. But I think objectively, that is the, yeah. There's it really has like a high quality feel to it, you know, like I think it was intended to be the highlight of the album in the way that Wherever I Lay My Hat was the highlight of No Parley, and Every Time You Go Away was the highlight of Secret of Association. Wonderland is the highlight of Between Two Fires. Now, this was again a very interesting album because obviously it was a hit over here, but they had problems with it over in the US, of course, because again it was like Paul Young doing something different, and I don't think the Americans liked it, you know, because obviously they loved Secret of Association, but yeah, this one they didn't like it. You know, they were like, I think from what I can gather, it was a case of because it was a different, you know, it was something different, dramatically so as well. Because I think Paul Young said Secret of Association was probably his darkest material, and I think when you look at some of the stuff, that's pretty fair to say. But yeah, it was very different, and the Americans didn't like it because they didn't know how to market Paul Young, you know. So that was the thing, and I think I remember reading somewhere that for American audiences, they didn't think they were going to see Paul Young again after Between Two Fires, and of course he did have that 4-year gap, didn't he, from 1986 to 1990. But obviously he stayed busy in that time. Obviously 86 and 87 he did the two Prince's Trust concerts, and obviously in 88 he performed at the Nelson Mandela tribute concert, something that's proved to be very significant later on, because obviously that's where he did his original performance of Don't Dream It's Over, but we'll get to that. But yeah, 1990 comes around. It's been 4 years, and my God, he comes back with a vengeance with Other Voices. Now, this one I've got to talk about, because this one is genuinely my favourite Paul Young album. I love this album. Yeah, this is... I like this because this one has got the most American feel to it. Because, of course, No Parley and Secret of Association were recorded in London. Between Two Fires was done over in Italy, in Milan. And this one was done over in... Well, it was done all over America. You know, he went all over the place. Recording this one, and this took a long time to do. Like I say, he needed all of those 4 years to do this album, but thank God he did it, because this really is, for me, my favourite album. There's so many, you know, for me, the beauty of this one isn't in individual tracks. This, you know, this one, you have to listen to it as a whole, and it works. It's seamless, because Heaven Can Wait, the introductory track on this album, is absolutely fantastic. What a way to kick the album off. You know, and obviously you got Chaka Khan featured in this. Chaka Khan features a lot in this album. She hangs over this album like a damn shadow, and that's not a bad thing, because of course she features on Heaven Can Wait, she features on Our Time Has Come, and of course she features on the duet of Stop On By. Yeah, she does a really good job. And of course, again, could be arguably his biggest production effort, because the amount of artists he collaborated with on this one, because obviously Chaka Khan, Dave Gilmour, the guitarist to play on Heaven Can Wait, and Stevie Winwood and Stevie Wonder again. I think Stevie Wonder did the harmonica. I think when I looked at the specifics, the credits of the album. I think Stephen Winwood did the keyboard on some tracks, but again, it really shows. He put all this effort, and he made the effort to recruit these big names, and it really shows. I love this album. I genuinely do. And the US never thought they were going to see him again after Between Two Fires. They were wrong. Yeah. I always say when I'm talking about how Paul Young did in America, they are his two biggest albums over there, I think. Secret Association and Other Voices. Because there's a lot of clips on YouTube. Paul Young was a regular on American TV in 1990. He was promoting this album like crazy. The Today Show, the Tonight Show, the Arsenio Hall Show. All these great, all these popular American TV shows in the 90s, he was there. And, obviously, that was his big, that was his big song from the album over there, Oh Girl. And that is fantastic. It got to number 8 over there, Oh Girl, in America. But let's talk about where the album itself again was a hit over here. Got to number 4, so it matched Between Two Fires. And this one, it didn't quite get the platinum. This one was certified gold. But again, you can't moan at that. Yeah. So this one was, again, a good return to form for him, and I think I've mentioned that, not on here, but it's something I stand by. This was a change of direction for him, really, because again he kind of returned to the approach of doing mainly covers. He realised that was his strength. As good a songwriter as he was, and we've talked about the gems from these albums. Obviously, we've got the singles from this one, which are Heaven Can Wait, Softly Whispering I Love You, and Oh Girl, and they're all fantastic. They genuinely are. But again, a lot of gems in the album track, like that one, the 4th track on the album, Together. I love that one, and again, one of Paul Young's own. I think that is my favourite track of the album, Together, and that could have been a single, but they decided to keep it as an album track, and that's fine. And also, that's another highlight, Stop On By, the duet with Chaka Khan. Our Time Has Come, that's a really good one. And again, that was one he wrote. And I really like that one. The penultimate track on the album. It's What She Didn't Say. That's got a really nice feel to it, that one. Certain tracks on this, like Oh Girl, Together, Stop On By, and It's What She Didn't Say. I think that's where the American feel comes through, maybe even Heaven Can Wait as well. But yeah, a lot of gems on this album. Like, if I had to pick one Paul Young album, if I had to recommend one Paul Young album, this would be it. Other Voices. I think it's such a fantastic one, and it is quite an easy listening album as well. Like I say, it's seamless. It just flows. But yeah, it was nice to have him back after 4 years. Yeah. And like I said, Oh Girl, that's probably the highlight of this album. We've talked about the highlights for the others. The track from that album is Oh Girl, definitely. Because like I say, number 8 in the US Top 100, the Billboard chart, and spent 3 weeks at number 1 on the US Adult Contemporary chart. So yeah, the Americans really, really like that one. And then the following year, 1991, that comes around, and he releases his first compilation album. from time to time. And I think this was one I got pretty early on. And I really like this one, you know, but it's not a complete compilation album in the respect that it's, you know, it's not all old material. There, obviously that makes up the body of it, but there are some new songs on this album. It even says on the front +4 new songs, and those are of course Don't Dream It's Over. Well, he performed that, of course, at the Nelson Mandela concert in '88, but due to popular demand, he did his own studio version. And that, do you know what? It really is good. I think that got number 20 over here. But yeah, fabulous track featuring Paul Carrack as well. And then, of course, Senza Una Donna, the duet with him and Zucchero. Again, one of his biggest songs, most likely, because that got a number 4 over here, and I think it did get number 1 in I can't remember where it was, but it did get number 1 somewhere. But yeah, that was a massive hit. One of Paul Young's last hurrahs, really. Yeah. And that genuinely is one. It genuinely is a highlight of Paul Young's Senza Una Donna. And then, of course, there was a really good one. I'm Only Fooling Myself. That was really good. Again, that's a pretty easy listen. Yeah, and yeah, again, such an enjoyable one. Do you know, though, I always say 1990, 1991, I genuinely thought that's where Paul Young was at his peak. I mean, a lot of people talk about 83 and 85, yeah. I mean, he was good, he was damn good, but I thought he sounded his best in 1990, 1991. But that's just me. But and the final new track on this is, of course, a really, really lovely one that he did with Clonard, the Irish group. Both Sides Now. That is a genuinely lovely one. Yeah, Both Sides Now. I think that it could be one of my favourite Paul Young ones. Because again, when I first heard it on this album, it was one that jumped out at me. Yeah, I absolutely adore that one. Yeah, again, Paul Young's another one. He's another artist that when he does a really nice song, it is a genuinely nice one. So he's very much like George Michael in that respect. Like when he gets it right on, he gets it right on. But this was a big hit. I couldn't believe this one. This got a number 1 over in the UK, and it got certified platinum again. So, absolutely amazing. And considering it was a compilation album as well, I thought that was really damn good. So, again, but yeah, one of objectively speaking, one of Paul Young's last hurrahs. But yeah, if you're thinking about getting a compilation album for Paul Young as opposed to a particular studio album, I think either that one From Time to Time, or of course the 2-disc collection Wherever I'll Aim a Hat, the best of Paul Young from 2008. That's a really nice collection. So that was 1991. 1992 was a good year for him as well, because he didn't release an album, but he released the single What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, which of course was used in the movie Fried Green Tomatoes. That was a big hit, of course, over in the US. Number 1 on the Adult Contemporary chart for 2 weeks. Yeah, and again, that is another genuinely good song. It is a really good one, a good effort from Paul Young there. And of course, 1992, another big year for him, because he performed at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert as well. Radio Gaga. Now, if you look, because obviously that performance is on YouTube, but if you read some of the comments, poor Paul Young gets a lot of heat for that performance. At the same time, there is a lot of support saying he did a good job. I genuinely thought he was good. Obviously, you know, you're not going to beat Freddie Mercury. Well, maybe George Michael could match him. I know people have said that, but I hold my hands up. Paul Young is my favourite, but I